Is everybody in? The ceremony is about to begin. Hello and welcome, listeners, to the Pilot Waves podcast, a podcast about artistry, about technology, about community, about commerce. It's about the intersections of these worlds. It's one world, but it's the intersection of these concepts. Now, on today's episode, an interview with Tristan Welch, a musician based out of the DMV, or at least the last I heard he was. This interview is from quite some time ago. Seems like a million years. It's only been, I think, since 2020, 2021, somewhere in there. But oh, how many things have happened since then. How much has changed and how little has changed. This episode is about work. It's about nostalgia. It's about these concepts and how they affect our everyday lives. Humbly, you are asked to listen, to give it your full attention as best as you can manage in this workaday world, and to send us feedback on how you think it was, how it hit you, how it resonated with you. All right, so tell me about why people should quit their jobs.
My big, when I first got interested in that concept of just not being enslaved to employment, I probably had always somewhat felt that way. About, I want to say 5 years ago, when my mom passed away. She was 63, and all she ever really talked about was wanting to get her Social Security check and just live. She was tired of working. She was tired of just doing the whole thing, and she never got there. And I hate, that impacted me to where I probably started having my own existential crisis of being like, what the fuck am I doing? And what was odd about that was I was at a crossroads in my employment, and I work at a funeral home. So when she died, I had to do the funeral. And I was actually in the process of trying to quit that job. I actually interviewed at a funeral home in Bethesda and was going to accept it. And then she died, and I was like, I guess I'm staying. So I did the funeral for my mother at a funeral home I fucking hated. I eventually got fired for trying to unionize.
Good man. I love that.
So that's my little personal experience on how that train of thought started really got going. And I started realizing everything I'm doing, it's not that I don't enjoy aspects of what I'll have to do for a living. Part of that is I'm very good at making people look presentable when they've passed away for family members to see. I'm very good at being cool, calm, and collected in moments of crisis. Things like that.
You're not skeeved out by dead bodies.
Not at all. I'm interested in different religions and cultures. And in this area, the DC area, there's a lot. I enjoy that. I realize when I'm there 8 to 10 hours a day, I'm really working maybe 3 or 4. So what is the point of the rest of it? The point is health insurance, a semblance of hope of retirement. And I realize that's what everyone's doing. And I think I would work just as hard. I would be just as productive without this concept of trading this time, which truly isn't even all labor. It's just simply time.
I used to work at a financial advice company. Financial education, they used to call themselves, but then eventually they started doing financial money matters. It doesn't really matter what it was about, but during the .com era, back in the 2001, there was a mass amount of layoffs because, we were burning up venture capitalist cash just as fast as we could get it. We hired some 400 people worldwide. We really had no business hiring this amount of people because, we weren't making any money. And I remember at the first round of layoffs, the CEO, or he wasn't the CEO, he was one of the founders at that point. He became the CEO later. Like any of that shit matters, and he just started crying. And, crying in front of these people who were losing their jobs. And he was crying, and he very earnestly said, I'm going to learn everyone's name. And he did. It was easier when there was only 70 of us left. But then a few years later, that same CEO remarked and was annoyed by the idea that even our lowest performing employees, according to whose metrics, but that's another conversation, that even our lowest performing employees got to participate in the perks of Pizza Day. What interests me sometimes is, so I live in the group house. It's like me and my partner. We have 2 other roommates. Sometimes there's even another one, depending on how many people we have in the house. And it's affordable, and the amount of hours I work I can't work any more hours. I mean, I could, theoretically, but my body can't handle it. And so it blows my mind that there's this like inverse relationship between like if I want a place of my own with my own place to be, I have to then spend more time in a place that's not mine, against my will almost. Mm-hmm. At will, which is they use that word, those 2 words, which cracks you up, right? Mm-hmm. It's not at will. My your fucking livelihood is on the line here. It's the Maslow hierarchy of needs. I'm gonna fucking die, And there's one book in particular I read where they talk about like one of the worst lies that was ever sold to people is this idea that if you don't work, you will die, which is totally not true. It can be true if people let you die, but in actuality, it's not true at all.
I think whether it's a job per se, labor will be done. I think I use carpenter for example. If someone likes to work with wood and make furniture, they're going to work with wood and make furniture.
You're not going to be able to stop them.
It's going to happen.
If you ever see people who are into the shit that they're into, they can't stop themselves from doing the things, whether it's music, painting, writing, taking care of elderly people. That might be a bad example. I haven't met a lot of people.
I think that's reasonable. I know plenty of nurses, whether it's hospice, nursing home, or hospital, that do get fulfillment. Do I think ideally they want to do it 60 hours a week? Absolutely not.
Yeah, the answer to that, right? Yeah.
But I think eliminate the need for full-time, quote-unquote, employment. they would still put on scrubs and help people.
I was at the Rhizome in DC, and incidentally, the Rhizome in DC is, arguably the best venue in all of DC. It's a music venue, it's an art space, it's an educator space. It's just all around one of the best places that exists in all of DC, and I will stand by that statement. I don't think anyone would challenge me on it, but that's just what I'm saying at the end of that phrase. So at the Rhizome, I went and saw this band, Fanaplane. Shout out to Ted Zook, my buddy. And there's a woman named Maya in the band, and bear with me, I promise the story connects somehow. And in a moment, there was a recognition that we needed to put more chairs out. And someone said, do we need to put more chairs out? And then 5 of us simultaneously got up and put all these chairs out. And we all sat down and exchanged some pleasantries, and Maya looked over at me and said, that right there, that was anarchy in action. And that stuck with me. That's a beautiful thing, anarchy. I think people have these sort of preconceived notions that anarchy is just chaos. And maybe they're right. But in the moment that she explained it to me, I understood what she meant, and I was educated.
Why do you think the United States version of capitalism ties health insurance so deeply to the 40-hour existence? Because it's not just having a job that gets you health insurance. You have to have like a 40-hour-a-week job, most times.
And even with, I think, the federal law is it can be less, but no one does that.
No.
And that's the magic question. I think it's more ingrained, not even in politics, maybe culturally, that the more time you spend with somebody else, the more dedicated you are. The more, I think, sexist in a way too. It's more manly you are.
Do you think the Protestant work ethic has anything to do with it?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think about this idea that if you don't work, you're not worthy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that kind of blows my mind sometimes that there's this requirement that it's like everyone can do something. It's like, well, maybe everyone doesn't have to do something. You know, I don't understand why it's even a requirement. I'm not going to let people starve just because they don't want to do something positive for society.
That's another angle. And this isn't an endorsement by any means, but I was very interested in the concept when Andrew Yang was running for president, and he was talking, in essence, about automation and the theory that that's a good thing. And I agreed with that. Why not? The money will come in. If I go to a grocery store and there's no one to check me out, that money is gigantorous. That can support massive amounts of people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be a good thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And
where technology
right
can replace that need.
What about the idea that there's so many things you do in a day, right? And there are particular points at which you can interact with a human being and have like a true meaningful moment. Now, obviously, you're not going to say to each person, tell me your deepest fear and your biggest secret, but to exchange a pleasantry with someone in your community
is meaningful.
Is meaningful, right? Even if it's just a, hi, how are you, right? Do you think that we lose something when we have more automation with our points?
I do agree with that. And that's where things get a little tricky. But I think there's a time and place. Big corporation has the ability to not enslave people.
Yeah.
Bodega, somebody just occupying their time doing something they want to do to be involved in their community, I think are two different things in a way. And I think we can have that choice.
I mean, I think you're literally experiencing that where people don't know what to do with their free time. And so
do they have a chance to find out?
Well, some people do.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time. Like I'm watching these people watch this gigantic ass TV in their house. And I'm fascinated by what people actually do with their free time.
Right.
Because some people, and these are the people that we're talking about. Like there are people who will work in their free time. Like they can't do anything but try to earn $1, right? And thank God they're there.
Which ultimately led to why I was mentioning a carpenter will be a carpenter.
Right.
People will say if we do universal health care, if we do all this stuff, then no one's going to work anymore. That's simply not true.
Why would that be the case?
Simply not true.
I would like to know historically where people were just laying around like lazy assholes, because there was a time that there wasn't work to do, but people didn't sit around and do nothing. They busied themselves, and they died pretty quick too, and they fought wars, and they did shit they weren't supposed to, right?
Right.
Most of them, I think, got into like religion and stuff.
True.
But most of the time, you were dead at 45 anyways.
Yeah. That's why you got married when you were 12.
I know, right? And then eventually, life got longer and much harder, And they were like, "What do we do with all this free time? We got to develop some sort of television."
So let's talk about television for a minute. Just for a minute. Or 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes. And we'll tie this into nostalgia. So we're going to talk a little bit about nostalgia throughout this episode. And I have this sickness where I rewatch the same show over and over again. And with my free time, and when I say free time, the time that I'm trying to re-energize myself and get ready for the next series of work tasks, because my work as a pet care professional kind of is all the time. You're kind of always working. You're either working or you're sleeping and or resting. Those are kind of the two modes. And I became like overly obsessed at one point with the show Frasier. And I would rewatch it on loop all the time. It was really fucking weird. And Big Bang Theory, I would watch and rewatch and rewatch. It brought me comfort that I realized eventually was nostalgia. It was nostalgia for the show, but it was also nostalgia for the presence of the people that I watched the show with the first or second go round, whether it be my parents, my mom. It was really fucking weird. And I don't know how you all feel about nostalgia, but at this point in my life, I wonder if it isn't very destructive both for myself and for society at large.
I tell people a lot, though, I really wish, to an extent, I could just be a person that worked, watched football on Sunday, drank beer, and started over again and was content. It almost seems simpler.
Right.
But I'm not.
Right.
I have more desire than that.
I think a lot of people do have more desire than that, you know. But there are a good section of people who are perfectly content. Sometimes people use the term NPC, non-player character, right? You know, and they're in their loops, and that's fine. But some of that stuff is needed to a certain extent. Like, I need people who are into the banal.
Yeah.
You know, not everything can be extraordinary all the time.
Right.
And I need something to be, you know, I need there to be a bar so I know how great is, right? Maybe. I don't know. I might be just fooling myself.
No. I think, and no, I don't disagree with that. Just, I think where we might be on the same page is we believe that would happen naturally.
It absolutely will. Yeah.
So why is there's this forced?
So what do you think the force is? Do you think it actually is personified, or do you think it's like the collective whatever of other people? Do you think there's the... I'm not asking you to go to tinfoil hat, but I'm totally down with it because I love it. But I mean, like, do you think that like what's that collection of asshole rich people that they just had? I can't remember. It's that meeting they do off of a lake, and it's just like rich people.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those.
I know, but I can't remember the name of this. But this one happened recently. Do you think that those people sit around and be like, how do we fucking get people to work? You know, like, how do we keep them working the shitty jobs? Do you think that it's like at that level?
No, but I do think they comprehend to an extent that if there's people that aren't on their level, then they can maintain their level.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They definitely know how to play the game.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, 100%.
So I don't believe it's a big conspiracy per se, but I believe that quite a few people know how to play it or are born into it and will do anything to maintain it.
Because they know where their bread is buttered.
Right.
What do you think of the idea that maybe some of those people are just as trapped as we are in their roles?
I've thought about that. And that's where it's hard for me to put it exactly into words. It's kind of like when people will use certain things as an example, such as, I'll use celebrities for example, when they kill themselves or are addicted to drugs or whatever the case may be. People are like, well, see, this can happen to anyone, which is true. I think that might just be more... I wish I could put it into words. I think we're all still searching for something and realize all that we're fighting for isn't necessarily the answer.
Do you think that sometimes people take advantage of... Because the search for something seems to be, at least in most people I've talked to, a universal.
Yeah.
There's always a search for something.
Right.
Do you think that sometimes is what's used against us?
Yes. And that's where I also think that where even the super successful rich, they have all the money, yet they still have the same problems.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads to my even, once again, well, what are we doing this for? We all know that doesn't help. So why is that what's enslaving us from finding that answer?
A man talking to another man. Man to man, man to machine, machine to machine. Communication between people is only an electronic impulse away.
So now let's take a moment for a recorded poem by Debasery called "A Friend of Yours Has Other Friends."
A friend of yours has other friends. I eat every single thing. I'd do anything to avoid alienation. I remember baking myself every summer, Florida style, tuning the radio back and forth from Y100 to YFM, Cannonball Billabong Bikini. Do we have Oreos? No. Do we have cookies? No. Do we have cake? No. Do we have ice cream? No. Do we have bananas? No. Y100 is 100.7. Y100 plays naughty things like Flo Rida, Black Eyed Peas, and the Pussycat Dolls. 2008 is right now. WayFM is 88.1. WayFM plays divinely enlightening and spiritually enriching things like Casting Crowns, Barlow Girl, and Toby Mac. Fluid identity begets incoherence. In retrospect, the illegibility makes sense. To flat iron unruly hair, then throw it in French braids overnight to achieve a softer, more lovable version the next morning. A friend of yours has other friends. When you hang out with your friend alone, you feel really good when she laughs at your funny face. You pull apart your mouth with your pinkies, take your 2 ring fingers and lift up the tip of your nose, then you grasp open your lower and upper eyelids with your middle and pointer fingers. When you hang out with your friend and her other friends, you sit and wait for an opportunity to chime. Yeah, supposedly Ryan asked Megan to go down on him after they grinded all night at Morgan's bat mitzvah. Oh my god, are you serious? Yeah, I am, but she obviously said no because of what Gabby said about his size. I don't really know what my opinion on this should be, and I'm afraid to say something polarizing. So I desperately lift my hands to my face. I pull apart my mouth with my pinkies, take my 2 ring fingers and lift up the tip of my nose. Then I grasp open my lower and upper eyelids with my middle and pointer fingers.
Having said that, when people always say, when they give you that slick response if you're complaining about something or sharing your struggles, it's always someone with a lot of money that tells you that money won't help. No, that would help. I'm not saying it would make me whole, but I will say it would help.
I'm not saying that money makes me happy,
Right.
but it makes the misery more comfortable.
Right.
You know, I don't, so I had a client, so I do dog walking.
Yep.
And I don't try to get hung up on money, but I do get hung up on the way people treat me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a client who basically texted me and said, yo, we need to take 4 or 5 days off because they need to stay someplace where they, they'll be more comfortable because fireworks or whatever. That's part of the story. And so it's like $600 less. You're talking about $600 out of my pocket, right?
Yeah.
And I said, well, whatever's best for the dog, obviously. But the more I thought about it, I just couldn't fathom that a married couple who just had a baby, you didn't know that $600 would cripple me? You don't know that that's the level of life I lead. If you don't know that, then we can't hang. You absolutely can't. We cannot hang. And
there's a big discrepancy.
It's a huge discrepancy. And even that, I look around and I see my clients and I'm like, you're not older than me. I don't think you're much smarter than me. I don't know what the fuck you do. You all seem like you just answer emails for a living.
Mm-hmm. Fake computer jobs.
And but I don't judge you for any of that.
Right,
I know
yeah.
that's what you want and that's what you need and it makes you happy. And I live my life my way. How do you not notice it? How do you not see my clothes? How do you not see my fucking hair? How do you not know that I'm broke? I don't do this. Do you think I dog walk for the money? No, I do it because I love dogs and
Right.
I don't want to work in a fluorescent tube nightmare. And so I'm trying so hard lately to have an open heart for those that have more because they need help just as much as anyone else, and in fact they get demonized worse than most people
to an extent. Yeah.
But what on the flip side of that, anyone who has money who's successful is immediately branded a hero because they must have done everything right to be there, and the money is like this badge of honor,
It's
right?
a trophy.
And so so you're like, how do I live in this world? This world of heroes who have money, someone who doesn't have money, who's not a hero, and us not being able to talk to each other because we don't even understand each other's problems. But they're the same fucking problems.
On the nostalgia tip, this is becoming like some sort of strange confessional. I have this other nostalgic pool of nostalgia that I dip into. I'm a big pro wrestling fan, and I like pro wrestling video games. And after 9/11, I hadn't played these games in a little bit. But after 9/11, I kind of like, and for younger people, 9/11 as in like September 11th, 2001. After 9/11, I kind of got back into it, and it became like almost like a security blanket. And that's what it continues to be. It's like what I go back to when I feel life is completely out of my control, or at least the control that I think I have is not within my reach, because none of us have any control over anything, no matter what we actually think. You can take that to the bank.
My big concept of the abolish work is just, I just feel that I believe if what we go through is forced employment,
Right.
is unnecessary.
Do you ever get the feeling, I get this feeling, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Do you ever get the feeling that the torture is the point?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know from my experience, that's what I was thinking of when you were talking, is I've had this habit over the past 5 years, roughly, is I'll work for a funeral home, I'll do good, I'll get promoted, I'll get a raise, I'm slaving away, and I just say, fuck it, I can't do it anymore, and I quit. And then I go somewhere else because I have to.
Yeah.
And then same routine. And obviously it's not fulfilling. I'm good at what I do, they even show me the reward, I'm just like, man, fuck it, this isn't worth it.
What makes you change? What makes you peace out at the 5-year mark, or approximately?
It's the year mark is when I peace out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's just when I hit my ceiling of just like I can't do it anymore.
Right.
And then 2 years, maybe 1 year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I was at the highest I was paid. I couldn't do it anymore. I said, fuck it. I went to a funeral home where I made the least amount I've ever made. But the trade-off was I worked the least amount. I had a boss. They didn't really give a shit what happened. It was just keep the money coming in and do what you want to do. And, but it was barely livable. But I remember the experience was pleasant. This is where I also have the concept of fire your boss. Was all the work that needed to be done got done. When someone died at 2 a.m, I didn't say it had to be done during business hours. I just said, okay, like,
yeah,
what do you need done? Let's do it. And maybe I'd work from 2 to 6 in the morning, take a nap, go to the funeral home at 2, do what I need to do, and whatever the case may be. I didn't need to be there 8 hours to be quote-unquote successful.
Right.
All I needed to be was passionate, reliable, compassionate, and have the ability, which I have. I ultimately left that one because of money.
Money, yeah.
But it taught me once again that that discrepancy of the enslavement. I had to choose my own choice at will, whatever the fuck you want to call it, to choose to give my time for a few more bucks an hour.
So let's take a moment to listen to Economic Fear by Tristan Welch off of Ambient Distress. This release is available on Bandcamp. Highly suggest that you check it out. It is well worth your time and money.
Have you ever had a boss that you could tell kind of got off on being someone's boss?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
And that's maybe part of why my big belief or concept doesn't work. Maybe there are just so many of those people.
I mean, the pandemic is, if you believe what you read, middle managers are getting squeezed out.
Yeah.
You know, because, or the on-site supervisor type people.
Right.
Right. The ones who make sure you're banging away on your keyboard. Hey, everybody, just wanted to let everyone know you're part of the team. We're very excited to meet those people.
Yeah. The pizza party people.
Yeah, they're out. They're out.
Right.
Yeah, they're out. And to a certain extent, I understand, it's very encapsulated in the office space where the guy is like, I'm a people person. I deal with people,
Right.
like that's the guy we're talking about, but they were necessary, when you have an organization of like 200 people, you have to have a certain amount of people sort of looking at them all.
True.
Because if you don't, everyone's going to kind of do their own thing.
True.
Why? Because that's what normal people do.
True.
Because working in an office is antithetical to being a human being.
Right. It doesn't make sense in the first place.
Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Of course, I remember I had a boss one time. We were having like a personal conversation, and he like yelled from his office, like, "Get to work!" And I was like, "Is this real right now? What's happening?"
Right.
And then so I worked at a music store. This is my last like real gig.
Yeah.
I was at a music store, the Chuck Levin's. I was working at Chuck Levin's.
Okay.
And the amount of inanity that you have to deal with because of the amount of items, the incredibly weird margins. They were more excited about me selling garbage items than they were, say, like a brand new MIDI controller, because the MIDI controller margin was like $10.
Yeah.
But selling out garbage, you're making $4 per item or whatever.
I worked at Guitar Center for a year.
So you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, and like it's a family, whatever. But if you're not 11, you're not part of the fucking family. No. And even the people who worked there for 30 years, like I thought they were great. But man, I went in there and I was like, this is nuts. I was like, I can't believe this is actually what people do for a living. I mean, this is insanity. And that did not rub them the right way, because they were very proud of what they had built. And they should be.
Sure.
But the way they treated their employees was shitty. And they were the ones who used that as a way to keep people down.
Of course.
That was absolutely part of the programming. They even told me one time when I did something wrong, they're like, well, we had to yell at you. Because they talked to me like I was a child.
Right.
And I did not, I was like, you don't talk to me like that. I was like, and I let them have it. And they were like, well, you needed to be talked to that way because you did something wrong. And I was like, I'm not a fucking dog, man. Like, what the fuck are you... Like, I was like, I'm either going to learn the lesson or not. Like, the way you talk to me has nothing to do with it. And so I fucking walked out. And I was so happy that I did, because it was the first job that someone said to me, like, hey, are you either going to shape up or you can just walk out? And I was like, cool, I'm out. And, and it felt great.
Need to.
It felt great. I felt so good.
I understand.
I lost a lot of friends, though. So.
Or were they friends?
Yeah, that's what I was surprised me is. I was
Right.
like, man, how do you not know this is a shitty place to work? Like I mean, even if your name is Adam Levin and you run the place, like, how do you not know it's a shitty place to work? Do you really like coming here? And if you do, it's only because you own the place,
Right.
you know, or that you're like one of those creepy weirdos who gets off on being people's boss.
Right. Right. I do think a lot of bosses are just like politicians. They like,
Yeah.
just that ability to play you like a puppet.
Well, I can't imagine that that's not going to burn any bridges. Apologies to Chuck Levins. I was obviously feeling a certain way about my very short employment there, and I spoke very ill of you, and I'm very sorry. But it's there for the record because I think it's important to the interview, and I think it's important to the story. Here's another story about someone that I used to work with. And this ties into the idea of people who get off being a boss and nostalgia. I remember I had a vacation to Jamaica booked, and my boss at the time, who was a African-American gentleman, and I was sharing with him where I was going, and he was like, "Oh, that's cool, you're going to Jamaica. Let me see where you're going." And I sent him my hotel, which was called the Royal Plantation. And he looked me dead straight in the face, and he said, "Alex, as a rule, I avoid plantations."
I do, when I've gotten in phases of where I think like general strike would kind of send a message.
Sure.
So many people put up with it, and I understand why, because I put up with it. I understand why.
Totally.
If enough of us said no, then their bread is being eaten.
Yeah, and they're not going to do the work.
No.
Or
I don't even know how.
I don't even think they know how. Yeah. That's all right, let's take a pivot for a second. So artistry, technology, community commerce. I bring those up for a reason. So artistry, tell me what artistry means to you. What is that? I know there's a definition of the word, but for you, what does the term artistry mean?
That's a good question. Artistry. For some reason, when I think of that word, I think more of like artists and crafts. I don't know why, but that's what comes to my mind. But that's not really what I think it means to me. Artistry, I think, is practice. It's the practice of something, whether that's musical, whether that's more painting, or even other things that we've already been talking about. Bricklayer, there's artistry. It's practice, and what comes from practice, or what comes with practice, I believe, is dedication. A passion, a desire, something within that forces you to perfect something.
Do you consider
Although it doesn't have to be perfect,
Mm.
but you know.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who you ask, I suppose.
Yeah.
Some people are that way.
And there's beauty in that.
In the pursuit of perfection?
Sometimes. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, I think so. Or do you consider yourself an artist?
Yeah.
What's your mode? What are the ways in which you practice being an artist?
Lately, there's been a few. Obviously, music is one. Although, truthfully, I am reluctant to really say I'm a musician, per se. Music is my form or sound, mostly. I'm not someone that goes home and practices scales, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I always view more as the sound of... I was talking to someone the other day, and I've always had this, and I always viewed it as a problem, but now I'm thinking maybe it's not. If we were to watch a movie tonight, I would get in my car, I wouldn't know what the fuck we just watched. I would know how I felt, though. And that's how I would remember the movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm that way with songs. That's, I think, a reason I'm very interested in instrumental music. I don't really remember song lyrics, but I remember how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So, with sound, which correlates to music, I'm more putting or handling emotion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And through practicing that, there is artistry.
Another law of the mind is this. The things that we think about just before we go to sleep have a tendency to become powerfully effective in changing our lives and attitudes. This is because of the fact that the subconscious mind has a chance to work on these things and bring them into reality while we're asleep, because there are no other disturbing thoughts to interfere with this process.
So now let's take a moment for a recorded poem by Debasery called Luxury Lobotomy.
This poem is titled Luxury Lobotomy. I bent down in the stockroom and threw up so hard in my mouth, it went up my nose and into my eyes, my whole head burned. When I stood up, I punctured the back of my head on a rack with an exposed metal edge so sharp, bloodbath, no surrendering. Instead, I dedicate to deeper resistance, turned around, inserting my authorship. The lobotomy I proceeded to perform through my left eye meant everything to me. Managers spamming, "Where are you? We need something from your body." Disappearing on the clock, I'm here at work in the basement below luxury. My eye softens under the first thrust upon pre-chilled metal. This stockroom is the coldest in all of Soho. Spontaneous blade begins to split my face. Brain mellows once tip touches. Release. Oh, yes. Now that is delicious purpose. Uniform shirt changing color, drinking up very warm gore, slung sideways. I can see better in my right eye, vision unstigmatizing. Bury my head, digging into the rod, profoundly, but not cavernous enough. I make flap out of my baby butch face. Toes gripping the soles of my non-slip brogues. Fingernails ferociously sinking, cinching, sculpting supermodel waist. Panting, standing there like kitchen bitch, hanging on orders, arched eagerly. I continue to push. Inhale, like hot stretch class. My eyeball popped, like how I'd envisioned my little flesh cherry, but realistically more like popping boba or desecration. I begin hemorrhaging. 102 missed messages in the employee group chat. Relax. I'm becoming myself. Overcoming myself. Probs have to go back soon. Pure smile. I taste an abundance of red, seeing colors I was promised to see in heaven. Brain behaving better. Got it under control. I've won. My strife, my stuff, my suffer. Beaten to a pulp. Exorcised. Pause. Since I'm perfect, now I can leave. I stack fists over the rod and push very away. I'm giving birth to violence, to labor. It oozes out of my seeing socket, squelching everything on its way out. Brain unpiercing and hardening back around the wound, forever changed, reprogrammed like borderline personality disorder therapy. Veins like wires empty out of the new cavity. The rod takes my eyelashes home with it in a to-go box. How femposh. I'm post-fuck pieced out. Layers of bone chipped and skin slinks off like slobber dancing. I laugh. It's like dick swinging. Mid-20s, existential bliss. To propel the door open like I just slammed 10 cock bears in a saloon, striding out of the stockroom, fucked up face. Silver spurs illuminate my path in front and behind, fully loaded cunt and holster. You can see inside my wonderful skull. Boring, horrified onlookers, shoppers, spenders. They have miserable lives. I punch the glass case, sterling rings first, pulling out the expensive first place brooch. No old money deserved this. To fasten it, I pierce my chest with the pin and dig, until the hardware disappears, clips onto some muscle in there or something. I approach the manager that would soon be fired. I released him into the hands of HR. I spit my eye blood in his face hole. He falls down the stairs from the force. Crack. Dismiss the nudge to give him more than that. Middle fingers up, screaming, "Eat my dust," a stench of iron trailing. I stand victorious, a student of life. A stunning sunset opens its rear and swallows me.
I've also lately, just when I think of, I'm using the word practice, in correlation with artistry. Martial arts, for an example.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what you'd consider, or most people would consider, art per se, but it is a practice of something that you really don't use, or you, it's an art.
It is.
And it's a practice. It's something that you have to dedicate to. It's something that you have to do regularly. It's something that you have to feel.
I wrote this down. This isn't exactly
Sure.
what you said, but the idea of the powers that be, the work world, it's like they're trying to fight our individualism.
Sure.
It's trying to remove our individualism.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, we're always told how we're special and unique individuals.
Yeah.
How do those things? Do you ever feel those things in your head? Those two sort of opposing thoughts.
Yeah. Constantly, in a way. I can. This is such a basic example, but it's true. I work in a funeral home. I have to wear a suit and tie. I have to have a clean-cut haircut. I can have a beard because I have one now, but I have to keep it. I can't be an individual. I have to fit the mold.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I'm told I'm valued as Tristan.
Mm-hmm.
That's simply not true. I'm willing to do it, obviously, because I'm doing it. But it's simply a lie to say you're valued for who you are. So just don't say it.
So now let's take a moment to listen to Tristan Welch's Economic Fear off of his Ambient Distress album, which is available on Bandcamp. You should go purchase and download it. Well, wait till after you listen to the rest of the show.
I worked at the big corporate feel-goodery factory, that was, pizza parties and happy hours and
All that, yeah.
and lots of fun and
Quote unquote. Yeah.
There was a period of time that we worked there and it was like nutso shit. Like we were out of hand.
I understand.
And then at some point we got, it got more corporate and it became like structured stuff. But there was a good couple of years where it was like inmates running the asylum, and it was glorious. But you know what? We didn't make any money because you can't make any money
if you're just partying.
if you're just partying all the time.
Yeah.
And if like someone just explained it to me one time. They were like, we're kind of shooting for like a lifestyle company. You come in here, you put in your time, you go home, and that's it. We make enough money to get by.
Right.
Right. And at some point, once the shareholders come into the play, they're like, well, that's not good enough. Now you got to have growth mindset.
Right. Yeah.
Tell me about the growth mindset. Do you know what I mean when I say
I know
that?
exactly what you're talking about.
Tell me about that.
That is ultimately why I left that one funeral home where I made less money, but had that at least most personal freedom I had to add, because I got hounded about growth. And I don't want to get in the weeds of it, but when I started there, we did 100 funerals a year, which in this area isn't very many. during that year, it went up to 200. Great job. How are we going to do more? I don't want to do more. I'm fine where we're at.
Yeah.
I do more for what you're paying me. Even then, I don't want the money. That's more time I'm dedicating to you to grow for what? So you can have another yacht? Fuck your yacht.
I very much hope that you enjoyed this interview with Tristan Welch, and apologies to Tristan for taking a little just shy of 6 years or 5 years to release it, 4 years, however long it's been. And that doesn't change the fact that you should go to Bandcamp and check out Tristan Welch's music. It is wonderfully emotional. It definitely takes you on a journey. Definitely rests on you in a way that you cannot ignore, and that is something that is very hard to find these days. And if you would like to give us feedback on this episode, which we beg you to do, we are pilotwaves@gmail.com. That's we are pilotwaves@gmail.com. And that's it for us now. Be seeing you.
Important, and I think what's important is for people to hear stories of success and failure.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
And when those stories are shared, I think our successes become embedded within one another. Like us having this conversation means our success is now intertwined.
Right.
What's good for you is now what's good for me.
Yeah.
And when other people hear this, the same will hold true for them.
Right.
I believe this wholeheartedly. It's maybe one of the only things that I do believe.
That I'm not completely nihilistic about.
It's true. I believe sharing your story is vitally important to the human existence.
No, I agree with that.